What's up, chat? Welcome back to the stream. It's Monday. It is time for you and I to indulge in a little bit of mayhem. And oh boy, do we have some mayhem to indulge in today, because the metagame has given us a great gift, a great smorgasbord of events and results to discuss, many of them not the normal boring factions that we would typically expect to see, which is always cool. So we have some interesting lists to talk about today. We got some HARLEQUINS doing pretty well over here. We got a bunch of Salamanders. We got some different kinds of Blood Angels. We got a bunch of different kind of like off-the-wall lists at X and 1, and some of them at undefeated from these various events, which is cool. So I hope you're all ready for an exciting stream in here. I love the Whip Prime. Yeah, well, it sucks to suck, I guess. We did get a little bit of a preview from our friends over at Warhammer Community of the new set of releases for the Eye of Terror, the Reign of Iron. So the new set of campaign books that are coming out next. So this includes all of the cool new Chaos stuff that we've seen previewed, including like all the new Iron Warrior skies and stuff like that, the new Mutilators, the new Knights and things for Adeptus Mechanicus, the new Archmagos lady. So cool that we featured her twice, I guess, on 2 different book covers. Let's go. What a time to be alive. So pretty sweet. I don't know if they talk about exactly what's in here. New detachments for Chaos Space Marines, Chaos Knights, Imperial Knights, and Adeptus Mechanicus. Why no new Space Marine? Why Space Marines? Yeah. They just can't help themselves. Guys, we're releasing a Dark Mechanicum. It's a Mechanicum versus Dark Mechanicum and like Demon Engines with a smattering of the Knight and Super Heavy factions in there. And we're going to have new Space Marines attachments. Come on, dude. They just cannot beat the allegations, bro. They can't help themselves. That's insane. Oh my god, dude. That's stupid. Incredibly dumb. I'm ready for the comments that's like, no, there's no like Space Marine bias in Games Workshop. Stop complaining if they get new stuff. It's crazy. All right, man. Oh, brother. That's good. That's very good. I literally, legitimately did not expect there to be another round of Space Marine releases. But that's on me. Why would I have thought that? Absolutely unhinged. Incredible. Anyway, chat. That's very good. I'm glad we read through that. I'm so excited. I, for one, welcome our old Ultramarine overlords that are going to get somehow up-powered with the new set of releases. That's fucking wild. 13 detachments for Chaos Space Marines? Yeah, but, I mean, that, you know, not as many as for Space Marines, to be fair. I think, honestly, what would help differentiate these factions is if we just separated out sub-factions into individual factions, we stopped doing solely Space Marine stuff. And I know it's like, you know, design resources and blah, 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 blah. But like, I don't know. Like if Emperor's Children and Thousand Sons and World Eaters can get along being separate factions entirely with entirely unique mechanics, maybe we could do that with the Space Marine chapters too. And then we don't have to constantly be getting vanilla Space Marine releases literally all the time forever that you can still use with Ultramarines for some reason. Pretty crazy. Needed attachment to allow running 6 Slash Primes. Yeah, they get battle line keyword. Somebody was like, maybe they're 35 points. I was like, well, then they're probably good. If they're just basically free. That's probably a good unit at that point. Unironically, I think actually probably pretty solid. But yeah, I don't know. I'm expecting 70, probably randomly 80 points because they're move 10, have a 3+ save. Wild. We'll see. All right, chance. There are more Space Marines, detachments for Space Marines than Votan and Emperor's Children have units. Yeah. More detachments than Votan and Emperor's Children combined, right? Because those only, I think, together have like 12. Yeah, it's a certainly interesting state of the game. But you want to talk about some cool states of the game? Let's talk about some lists, chant. Let's talk about the current state. So I want to start our discussion with the most goated of events. The GST prevents Great Southern. This is in Australia. And I want to point out something that all events should do. They give you pizza when you play. That's fucking sick. Cool. I'm so in. This is a 24-player GT. Because it was only 24 players, it did run 5 rounds, and it ran to no one defeated. Everyone lost. We are all losers when we go down to Australia. Also, randomly, huge representation from Dark Angels out of nowhere. Pretty wild. But I want to talk about the winning list. Lachlan Bosk, who ended up winning the entire event based on tiebreakers, who is playing. Look at this fucking list, chat. I love this list. I love it so much. This list is exactly down my wheelhouse. It is all big monster Emperor's Children. Let's go. It's Emperor's Children, but everyone has to be big and have an enormous ass. And I'm so into that. So triple Keeper of Secrets plus Fulgrim Carnival of Excess. That's sweet. Now, the cool thing about Carnival of Excess is, I'm just going to set up my little rule viewer here, is that unlike shitty, terrible Change Host of Deceit, which should be ashamed of itself, Carnival of Excess actually has really cool synergy between its demon units and its Primarch. Can you imagine? I could never. Thousand Suns could never. Not in a million years. The reason for that being that Fulgrim has sustained hits on all his weapons, which is cool, right? Just kind of a neat thing for Fulgrim to have. He just loves rolling 6s, which is Slash's number. I think it makes sense. However, he has to roll 5s if he's in Carnival of Excess, because anytime an Emperor's Children unit is within 6 inches of a Legion of Excess unit, it gains empowerment and scores critical hits on a 5+. So Fulgrim gets basically +1 to critical hits inside this detachment. It actually makes him kind of sweet. So I think that's cool. We're running a pair of Keepers of Secrets in addition to Lucius the Eternal and a Sorcerer. I'm going to level with you, chat. I don't even know what the Emperor's Children Sorcerer does.
Etriong 6931 donated $5 through Super Chat. Bosk? Like Bosk from Star Wars. After this list, could you show the meme I sent you? Big Tyranids suffer energy.
I don't think it's like Star Wars. It's with a C. I don't think Bosk would be caught with a C in his name. He's a mercenary. He's a bounty hunter, not a booty hunter. His first love is not the sea. But yeah, I can show the meme for sure. The sorcerer gives the benefit of cover to his unit. Jesus Christ. What? That's a real data sheet. And he has a smite. It is exactly a smite. Cool, man. What is this guy doing? That's wild. He can reduce people's movement characteristic. All right. Is he just cheap? Is he really cheap? Who does he join? Fractures, Marines, Tormentors. He's like 60 points. He's 60 points. What's the next cheapest data sheet in Emperor's Children? Is it they upcharged the who was it? The Lord Cacophonist, right? So he's 70 now. He used to be 65 and he's significantly better. Is he just the least expensive unit in this codex? He's the least expensive data sheet? That must be it, right? I think the only other one would be the Lord Cacophonist. I think Spawn are like 85. 70, sorry. I was so off. Yeah, so I guess he's 10 points cheaper than a Lord Cacophonist or Spawn. So if you just want a little guy with a gun, he's 60 points. He's move 7. He can go do actions. I don't think that he he gains sustained hits when he's near a demon as well, so his gun can have sustain. All right, well, that's something, I guess. Good job, little sorcerer. We're proud of you, buddy. We got double Demonite units, so that we have good good sort of aggressive infantry, plus they can spread, they can string really far to provide the empowerment buff to a lot of different Emperor's Children. We have Flawless Blades, who really love to have sustained hits. Very cool to see. Also, Mauler Fiends, same deal. Big, high impact attacks, so sustained hits go really far, which is very cool. And then Noise Marines, also sustained hits on Noise Marines. Now, sometimes we see Lord Cacophonist in this attachment, because the Lord Cacophonist gives you sustained hits as a leadership effect, and then you can get 5+ critical hits from this. So it's basically the 5+ critical sustain you get from the top tier of Coterie of the Conceited. However, you don't have to do any work for it. You just get it from being near a demon. We're not doing that in this case. We're just playing with the normal sustained hits one. However, if you do have the opportunity to get that full access, then it goes pretty crazy. But then we have Keepers of Secrets with that empowerment effect as well. Now, this affects all your attacks, so it affects your ranged attacks too. So all these like random whip attacks and things are also going to get affected by the sustain from empowerment. But then we're just hitting on 2s with potentially. It looks like we have shields on these ladies, so we're running the 10 attack variant, not the 13, not the full 13. But 10 attacks with sustained hits 1 means you probably full convert. They're very good against, sort of heavy infantry. And then you have Fulgrim, who can walk around with the Keepers of Secrets to like deal with armored stuff. It's definitely something. It is a relatively big stat check. The Keepers are not the easiest thing to kill with -1 to hit, and Fulgrim can also get a -1 to hit effect. Plus, he has a better armor save. So, altogether, it's tough. It's tough stuff. And then you just have a bunch of Mauler Fiends to back it up too. So it's just a bunch of pretty spooky, high toughness defensive profiles. I don't know if there is a way to get through terrain features. Any of your opponent's fight phase, Demonite units can go to Strategic Reserve. And then if they arrive back in your reinforcement step using Deep Strike, you can go 6 inches away, as long as you set up Holy within 9 inches of Emperor's Children unit. So for 2 CP, you can up, down, and then 6-inch Deep Strike your Demonite units to steal objectives from people. Although I believe that the Demonettes inside the Carnival of Exodus are OC1 instead of OC2. So they're not quite as good at taking objectives. I'm going to fact check myself. Yeah, OC1.
At Philip French 276
Hey!
donated $19.99 through Super Chat. Thanks for the shout out.
Thank you. Congratulations on doing so well this weekend. That was cool. That was cool to read through your list. So congrats on the big W over there. The nice undefeated result. And thanks for the super chat. That's huge. Yeah. So the Demonettes here, I mean, you can still put 10 OC onto objectives, and they hit hard enough that they can probably get, they can like clear off utility units and stuff. It's a 2 CP expenditure, which is quite a bit. I don't think that there is a, your Legion Excess unit can declare a charge on a turn in which you advance or fall back. You get 6-inch pylon, consolidates, -1 to hit. You can destroy Legion Excess units, and then, or after a Legion of Excess unit destroys a unit, you can pick an Emperor's Children unit within 6, not within engagement range. Then you can charge with them. Oh, cool. Interesting. That's fascinating. You can return Demonettes to your units. Yeah, and then you can pick up. So there's no way to go through walls. So we're not really improving the maneuverability, but beyond advance in charge of the Keepers or the Mauler Fiends. However, it is just so many wounds, right? 3 Mauler Fiends at T10. 2 Keepers at T10 plus Fulgrim is he T11 or am I stupid? He's T11, yeah. So you have 16 wounds plus the Keepers together are 36. So 52 plus another 36. So it's like 88 wounds at toughness 10 with an invuln save that can be affected by some of the strats, depending on whether it's a demon or an Emperor's Children. So big stat check. I don't know. And it all buffs it each other with sustained hits. That seems pretty cool, chat. I like it. I like it a lot. These are my favorite kind of lists. I love these. Given that I just played all bird Chain Host of Deceit, that's a pretty good one. All right. Yeah, we want to look at the silly meme. We're gonna talk more about the incredible datasheet that is the Tyranid Prime. I think somebody mentioned that, like, by itself, like on the whole, the Tyranid Prime datasheet isn't like, it's not like the worst thing ever. I mean, it depends on points value. If they pointed at like 80 points, you're gonna be like, come on, man, what the fuck are you doing? But like, if it'll probably be like 60s, and it'll be pretty like cheap, and it's competing with lictors, and I don't think you'll ever take this thing over a lictor unless you're doing something specific. But like, it's a character, whatever. But the somebody made the point that was I think very salient, that it's like, if this came out unreleased with the other Tyranid Codex, releases, and you were like, you released it with the Psychophage and Barb Gaunts and the Winged Prime, you'd be like, oh, okay, so there's like the Winged Prime, which is faster, maybe more utility based, and then there's the Melee Prime, there's the Foot Prime, who's like hits harder, and it sucks they have the same leadership ability, but doing it 3 years later, it just feels like such a miss of a release cycle, especially when you're coming out with like Huron Blackheart, Masters of the Maelstrom, Wardens of Ultramar, Necrosaur Ambentar, like all this crazy transformative shit that totally changes how factions play, and then you're like, here's this guy, he's the same as the other Tyranid Prime. You're like, cool, man. He's the potential Nid. He has the potential to kill a tank. His surge move will be good in the right mission pack. I think that's definitely one thing that he does that's unique, is the surge plus reactive move off of a Termagant unit, which when you think about it, you're like, oh man, that's what like Huron does. Huron can do that, and Huron's Marauders and Victor Chunderguard do that, and those are both great units. But the thing to consider is that those are both units who are A, difficult to kill, and B, hit in melee. And we're talking about Tyranids here. They're the easiest faction to kill, at least they're infantry, and also they don't do anything in melee if they're Gaunts. So it's like, oh, all right. I mean, I guess I can engage you, and then unless I got the Prime into melee, which seems a little difficult, it depends on the exact board state, and my opponent kind of had to fuck up. Unless I get to Prime into melee, I'm attacking you with like 6 Termagants. Like, so I hope I'm taking your objective, and I hope you don't hit me back really hard and kill all my Termagants, and then I'll be sad. Can't wait for until he gets an enhancement. Yeah, that's the weird thing too. Is like, I can put an enhancement on him, but Tyranid enhancements are famously bad. Just wait till Warriors get buffed. If there's a new Warrior data sheet, I mean, maybe it's fine. But like, I feel like they would need to. Maybe it's a situation where it's I don't know. There's detachments or other rules changes coming down the line for the Tyranid faction that we don't know about. That could maybe be the case, but it seems a little unlikely. Who knows? I don't know. Will we get new rules to differentiate myself from other characters? No. Will we get another surge? The real thing is, will we get another instance of sustained hits for as a leadership ability? That's the crazy one. The thing that it's like, it just perfectly apes the already existent Winged Prime. Is like, blows my fucking mind. I don't know. I don't get it. Anyway, chat. It is what it is. We've talked about it. Hopefully he's point costed really cheap and he's going to be useful like independently, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Advance and charge is desirable. But he doesn't give you advance and charge. He gets it if you put him in Hormigaunt units. But I mean, like, is that what we're doing? We're making 150-point Hormigaunt units? I mean, I guess so. But like, he looks like a commemorative store model. That's brutal, chat. That's a horrible thing to say about someone. I would not say that about my worst enemy. That is funny, though. You're so right. He does look like a one-off, like alternate sculpt, for sure. Strength 3 was too OP. Yeah, we got to get to this. The strength 26, damage 30, AP 6. Hormigaunt. Then that guy's going to be great. Rather have 20 Poxwalkers? Well, Tyranids don't get Poxwalkers, so that's not a direct comparison. Should we talk about some Aeldari, chat? Yeah, the real comparison is another unit of Hormagaunts. Like, the thing to keep in mind is like, oh, I could deliver this dude who's going to attack like 4 times into melee. Or I'm going to take a whole extra unit. Like, it's a whole nother unit. You could have him be fighting people that your Hormagaunts are fighting, probably not quite kill the unit he's fighting, and then die, and then give up more points to your opponent and give up assassinate. Or you could just have 2 Hormagaunt units, and you could still not kill them, but you could just run 2 units into them and keep them off balance for another turn. Like, I don't know. Tyranids tend to feel like they want to have a greater unit volume rather than higher quality units, just because their data sheets, like the baseline data sheets, are so bad. And they're good with volume, right? Like high activation count Tyranid armies are the way to go, and they score really consistently. And it feels like if you are taking points out of your army to put characters in your little utility units, that doesn't feel like where we're supposed to be. It's like no one attaches jump pack captains to their assault intercessors, right? Their jump pack assault intercessors, because that's not the role of the unit. The unit is not there to go and do lots of murder. It's there to charge something, and maybe they'll kill a utility squad if it's like light infantry. But a lot of times they'll just go in and they'll steal the objective from them or something like that. You're not putting a character in there to facilitate that. I don't know if that's the greatest analogy, because those guys do like impact mortals and stuff, but you get what I'm saying. Best I can do is 10 points off the toxic screen. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how you save the toxic screen without changing the core mechanics of the game. Chad, I want to talk about some Aeldar. Should we talk about some Aeldar? Let's talk about Liam Vissel. So we have the Schwinnenkloppen Open, which I'm sure I pronounced correctly. Which is a relatively large event, major level event this weekend, 141 players, pretty big. Liam Vissel lost in the final round. He went 5-1 with fucking Harlequins, dude. We are back. Now, for everyone who has maybe forgotten, I know Liam did play Aeldari at World Championships and did really well. But he spent a long time like doing some other stuff. He's played Chaos Space Marines for a while. I mean, he does like Chaos Space Marines and like mixed Legion Chaos Space Marines is kind of his one of his the breads on which he butters. However, classically, he's like an Eldar, a Harlequin player. We actually had him in T5S2 several times playing Harlequins and doing incredibly well with them. And it seems like he's back with this cool Harlequin detachment that I think, I don't know, has some stuff going for it. It's not too bad. So this is the one that gives you, when you disembark from vehicles, you get sustained hits 1. All your mounted units and your vehicle units get sustained hits 1 on every weapon all the time. Infantry that disembark your transports gain sustained hits 1 as well. We're rocking, in this case, a trio of troop masters. One of them is +3 strength, +1 attack. And he has a troop master blade, so he goes to, I believe it's like 7 attacks and strength 7. Is that right? I think they just choose their strength characteristic. Troop Master's Blade. Oh, it goes to 6 attacks to strength 8, excuse me. If he chose the special weapon, he would have 7 attacks to strength 7. But he has higher AP here, which is good. Plus, they are all devastating wounds, which is great. Another Troop Master has Key of Ghosts, which gives him 6-inch Scout, which, because it affects all models in the bear's unit, if he attaches into a unit and then they go into a transport, he will apply it to the transport as well, which is neat. We got a Storm Guardian squad to hold down the back line. Troops times 1, 2, 3, 4. A Dark Reaper squad times 3. Jesus. No. Yeah, 3. There's a random space in here. So it's 3 Tempest launchers, looks like, to just add indirect fire so that we don't have to use the troops themselves to actually kill opposing utility units. They could just run up and engage things to lock them in combat. And then the Dark Reapers can either whittle down a utility unit so that the troop units can one-shot them, or they can kill them entirely. We have a Falcon. I love this combo, by the way. We mathed this out, and this combo does like 12 to 13 mortal wounds. So the reason that is the case, and to some extent, it might be that the Dark Reapers go into the Falcon and they get wound rerolls. In fairness, that's helpful. But the Falcon could also be used to deliver Harlequin troops, we have any Skyweavers or Starweavers? We do. We have 3 Starweavers, but 4 Harlequin troop squads. So I think it seems like we probably are putting one of these inside a Falcon. But the benefit is that the Falcon counts as a transport, so it gives you sustained hits when you disembark from it, but it also gives you fire support in the fight phase. Because their fire support, inexplicably for no reason, works better than everyone else's because they're Eldar, and it works until the end of the turn, not the end of the shooting phase, which means these guys with an entire unit full of devastating weapons get full wound rerolls, and you put that on the troop master with an extra attack, so he's attacking 6 times. Plus, the rest of the unit is attacking with swords, probably. Yeah, it looks like we just have swords on everyone. It looks like, I think. I don't know if we have any special weapons here. I believe the basic Harlequin player unit is 5 melee attacks with swords. Yeah, with devastating wounds. So we're attacking 25 times with the basic guys plus the full rerolls off the troop master. So if you get, let's say, 2-ish wounds off the troop master, that's 4 wounds. You get 4 or so off of the Harlequins themselves, and you reroll all of their dice. So you're rerolling another what ends up probably being like 16 or so wound rolls, which is like you average another 2 to 3. So you're averaging 6 to 7 off of the Harlequin troop plus 4-ish from the master. So you're swinging 11 mortal wounds or whatever you charge. That's pretty cool. Plus you've already shot him a bunch of times. And it's actually higher than that because you have sustained hits as well. So I really like that. As soon as this data sheet came out, I was like, I bet Harlequins are going to be good with this. And then they gave them a Harlequin transport focused detachment. Of course, it's going to be sweet. So that's cool to see. We have a Ranger unit for utility, a Skyweaver unit for some disruption. Sustained hits on all those guys is great as well, plus Haywire, so we can clear vehicles. Triple Starweaver to carry some of the troops around for utility purposes. In addition to 3 units of Swooping Hawks, so we have additional mortal wound output from those guys on top of that. I like that this list is not just 6 Harlequin boats with 6 dudes in it and 12 Skyweavers. This definitely is the list designed by somebody who knows what they're doing, because it takes a smattering of different options. And while all of the stratagems are focused on Harlequin units, so you get no support for the other units in the army, that said, you still get battle-focused tokens that you can use on anything, and a lot of these Aeldari units are good enough that we don't necessarily need the Harlequins to support them anyway. So, as long as you're good at manipulating the fight phase and utilizing your light infantry well enough to swing objectives, this list is going to be very consistent, which is sweet. I like it. I love this a lot, Chance. Some cool archetypes today, which is getting me going. I'm loving it. That's not the only Eldar I want to talk about, because we have a little bit more of a standard build that's coming out of another event. We can head on over to the Dark Sphere February GT. This is a 49-player GT, and this one ended up being won by Chaos Space Marines. This was a Huron's Marauders list I talked about on my Best Armies of 40K last night. Which is pretty cool. It was just like all melee aggro Huron's Marauders, just all melee all the time. Everyone run and get auto 6 advance and +1 to hit and beat the shit out of people. Pretty neat. Very straightforward. However, we had a draw for 2nd and 3rd place between Aeldari and Samuel Martin on Adeptus Mechanicus here. And Tim Lowe's was playing Seer Council, which is sweet. We saw a little bit of a push towards Seer Council once we had the big nerfs going through. Seer Council and Guardian Battle Host really sort of came out of the woodwork. However, they fell off a little bit, but maybe it's coming back. I don't know. We'll see. Pretty sweet. In this case, we are running Eldrad, Fuegan, Janezar, Lycus, Malgan Ra, a standard Warlock with Lucid Eye. That is, if I remember correctly, the enhancement that lets us switch our fate dice rolls by 1 Yes, it is. It's very expensive, unfortunately. Oh, there we go. But this is obviously the detachment where you roll your fate dice at the beginning of the game, and each use of a fate dice, depending on what you roll on that facing, gives you a free use of a corresponding stratagem. The Lucid Eye lets you increase or decrease the value of those fate dice in your command phase. So you can manipulate them to get to repeated uses of the stratagems that you want. So this detachment, if you have this enhancement, is essentially just plus 6 CP. Because you should be able to manipulate the fate dice to get to the results that you are going to use multiple times. So you're going to use, so you're going to be able to utilize all 6 of your fate dice over the course of the game. In addition to that, we also have Eldrad, who is also giving you a command point. So you're basically playing with plus 11 command points over what your opponent has. It's a level of efficiency hitherto unseen. Pretty good stuff. Thank you for the membership, Dr. Fi. Or Dr. Fail? Was it Dr. Fail? I think so. That's pretty cool. Chris here managed to go undefeated with Land Raider House this weekend. Hell yeah, dude. That's rad. Got a draw round 1 because you clocked out. Oof. Into 3 whirlwinds. Yikes. You clocked round 3, but didn't lose? That's actually crazy. You clocked round 3 and your opponent drew you? Wild. You must have been destroying that person. Like, utterly destroying them. I don't know if there's many situations where my opponent clocks round 3 and I'm not able to win from there. That's pretty crazy. All right. We're talking about Seer Council. So in this case, we're running Void Reaver squad for utility plus a Guardian Defender squad. Those guys can dual attach with the Warlock and Eldrad. You can use Unshrouded Truth to teleport them around the table. So when you need them to, you can deliver Eldrad's Doom onto stuff. But a big part of this detachment is, keeping things in reserve or in transports, and then being able to Unshrouded Truth whatever you need to into whatever spot you want to like dual attack, like basically throw overwhelming force at your opponent. We have a Howling Banshee squad for that reason with Jane Czar. We have the 10-man Fire Dragon squad with Fuegan. They're excellent off of the drop-in from Unshrouded Truth because of the extra range they're able to use. And then as long as you get Fuegan into position, they're also +1 to wound. So they're probably wounding on 4s rerolling, which is incredibly efficient, very consistent for them. We have Dark Reapers for Maugan Raw to do some damage with. 2x5 Rangers for some utility. A Warlock Conclave, so we're going to dual attach, or we're going to embed them into the Guardian Defender squad, and then we can dual attach the Warlock and Eldrad, so we can get the full combo going. And then those guys, with their Destructors, also go kind of crazy, because you're shooting 5d6 plus 10, I think. Strength 7 shots. You also have access to, is it Presentiment of Dread? No, it's there is a stratagem. Fate Inescapable. Gives you Ignore Cover and critical +1 AP. So the downside with the Destructors is that it's a Torrent weapon, but it doesn't naturally ignore cover. But that lets you pay a CP to ignore cover. So the Warlock Conclaves can actually hit you with AP1 punching through cover, which is kind of a big deal. We also have a Wind Rider squad, which is interesting. I guess if we're already running Warlock Skyrunners, we might just want one to give their ignore cover to the Wind Riders, so they're a little bit more efficient. But I think like most of these are infantry keyworded, so there's not really that much synergy between the Wind Riders and the detachment. But I guess like if we're running Eldrad and we already have access to the Skyrunners, like we almost might as well be running Wind Riders with them. But a lot of times the Warlock Skyrunners are the payoff for a lot of these stratagems, because you require Psychers nearby, and the Skyrunners are only 45 points and they're non-characters. So they can run around, they don't give up assassination, and you can use them to deliver things like your reactive grenade stratagem, Isha's Fury, which lets you do mortal wounds if people move near you. So yeah, There's a lot of board control in these styles of lists, and tons of maneuverability, so you could get these big aspect warrior squads on target, which is cool. So always nice to see. A little bit of a different thing. Makes you irrationally angry people cheese the Guardian Death Star illegally. It is nothing illegal about it. It is incredibly legal to put both the Warlock's Conclave and the Warlock in your unit. That is not an issue. I don't know why they have like the weird clause where the non-detached attached unit clause, but I think that was at one point like some kind of future proofing for a mechanic they didn't really explore. But basically, you cannot attach more than one Warlock Conclave to a unit. However, this happens before you attach any units. Then you just attach units normally, right? It's a joined unit, not an attached unit, which means that the Warlock Conclave doesn't occupy an attachment slot. They are part of the bodyguard unit, so the unit's not yet attached. Then you can attach a Farseer and a Warlock to it, just like normal. That's not. It is not a controversial maneuver. It is, as far as I know, explicitly how the effect is intended to work. And otherwise they would have said, otherwise that you couldn't do that, which they didn't. And that's how it's been all edition. It's not the only instance of this clause. So yeah, I don't know. It's a weird thing to get angry about. We could talk about Adeptus Mechanicus at the same event. There is no order of operations for attaching. But there is. There is, though. You resolve effects that happen at the start of a step before you go to effects that resolve normally during that step, which is why the start of is important. It's also the same for combat squaded transports, right? It's exactly the same interaction where otherwise there are all sorts of like super weird idiosyncrasies with how attachments work with combat squaded transports, but because they explicitly resolve that effect at the start of the battle formation step, then that's when that happens. If that's how intended to work, it would be worded like the solo Warlock. How do you mean? I don't understand why that would be the case. So the solo Warlock says you can attach this model to a unit even if Outsark or Farseer has already attached. Okay. The Warlock Conclave does not attach to a unit. It's not the same effect at all. I think that's where you're getting confused. I don't know, man. This is weird. You're creating a mountain out of not even a molehill, just a interaction that doesn't exist. Let's talk about Adeptus Mechanicus. Let's move on. Samuel Martin. So this was the draw in round 3, which put both players undefeated going into the final result. We would have had 2 undefeated or 2 XOs, except for this draw. This is a little bit standard, more of a standard build. Halo Screed Battle Clade. Although running Onager Dune Crawlers, so actually it's kind of cool. Yay! I love Onager Dune Crawlers. Let's go. We've got Belisarius Call. We've got double Skitari Rangers, plus the Scorpius Dune Rider. 2 units of 3 Iron Strider Ballistari, normal stuff. We do have the 1 Onager Dune Crawler with an Eradication Beamer. Now I'm going to level chat. I don't know all the differences between the different Onager weapon profiles because they all have cool names that are neat. So the Eradication Beamer is the sustained hits 1 blast. This was the one that was like sustained D3, but like had less attacks previously, right? And they updated the profile. But the benefit is that you can give rerolls and critical 5-ups. So you can get these big like 3 damage sustained hit gunshots with critical 5s in Halo Screed Battle Clade, which is cool. If you're not doing it on your Iron Striders, which I guess in fairness, in some cases, like if you're shooting a big unit of like heavy infantry or something, the eradication beamer is firing 3d3 plus 2 because it blasts. Getting sustained hits on that and rerolls is probably higher value if you don't need the additional damage that you get from Iron Strider Ballistari. So it probably depends on exactly what you're shooting at. So I guess that makes sense. Plus, the Dune Crawler is, if we will remember, kind of an annoying to kill profile. He's not the hardest thing to kill in the world. It's a little bit weird that it's like a 130 millimeter base or 160 millimeter base, but it's 11 wounds. But it is a 2+ armor save, 4+ invulnerable. So it's not the easiest thing in the world to kill, and the guy can kind of bulwark pretty well. He can act as a battleship and trade blows with something. We have utility from 2 servitor battleclades, Sakarian infiltrators, a little 5-man, and then a big 10-man. Rust Stalkers ×3. One of them can, a big 10-man to go into the transport and then run out and go blow something up. Plus a Sidonian Dragoon unit. Okay. Again, we can 5+ critical hit and sustained hits too on the Taser Lances on those guys. To do some pretty serious work, which is cool. I don't know. It's cool to see an Onager Dune Crawler. It's I guess the comparison here, he's the same cost as 2 Iron Striders. He's a single entity and he's harder to kill. And he's better into multi-model profiles. So I think that I guess it does make sense. The 18-inch range, I guess, on the focused gunshot is a little bit tough, especially with how unmaneuverable he is, but just having a big long-range blast weapon is probably pretty good. It's definitely a dramatically different Iron Strider Ballistari, or a profile to the Iron Strider Ballistaris. I guess it would be similar to if you ran autocannon Iron Striders, but he fires non-twin-linked, I guess less attacks in total, but he's higher strength than AP. So him versus 2 autocannon Iron Striders probably pretty similar. Gives you something that can shoot at like T9 as well, and you're not like gratuitously overkilling it. Because one thing that often happens is that the Iron Striders push out to shoot something stupid like a Rhino, and then you're like, cool, now my opponent can shoot me back. And if your opponent ever counter batteries the Ballistari, they just immediately die. They're very easy to kill. I mean, they don't all die immediately because they are like 27 wounds or whatever, or 21 wounds or 7 wounds each. But you'll oftentimes lose 2, and then your single individual is less good. However, the Dune Crawler sometimes just doesn't die on the crack back there, and he lets you shoot into like T9 profiles without worrying about it. So I think I get it. I get it. All right. So we got some other interesting stuff to talk about. There's a bunch of interesting Space Marine builds that we can discuss if we are interested in Space Marines. There's a little bit of success from Gene Stealer cults. We saw, actually, let's talk about, first of all, before we hop into those, we'll talk about some Xenos for a sec here. Because we did see Undefeated Tau Empire, and it's all aggro, punchy Tau Empire. So it's over here at the West Midlands 40K GW Terrain ITC. First of all, I guess, and it's important that you note this because in UK, could you be using UKTC terrain features? I kind of love that we just say, you know, guys, here's what we're playing. Because I have complained in the past, and a lot of people complain to me that I don't include in any of my meta reviews what terrain on event uses, and the answer to that is generally I don't know. I have no idea. So I do appreciate anytime an event is just like, here's what we're doing, and I love also they put it in the title. I think that's great. But in any case, this was won by Tony Barrett, who's also running the event. Ooh, scandal? I don't know. But in any case, he won, and he was playing awesome, super cool KROOT hunting pack. So yeah, just a bunch of KROOT, as you do. 1 million KROOT. There are 2 Pathfinder teams in investment singing unit, and I think literally every other model is a KROOT model. Yeah. So there's 20 Pathfinders, We're like, guys, we're honorary recruits. We are here to study the native life of this horrific, cannibalistic, carnivorous planet. And otherwise, it's just a bunch of native guys just shooting people with their weird guns that they have with swords on them. Let's grab the detachment. So this is, of course, the detachment where we get +1 to hit when you attack something that's wounded, +1 to wound if it's below half strength. Not quite as important, although occasionally it does come up when you are swinging with your KROOT Rampagers. However, the big thing is that you have 6+ invulnerable save against melee attacks, 5+ invulnerable save against ranged attacks. So the entirety of the unit is protected by that 33% damage reduction against most incoming damage. Plus, it's mostly stealthy as well. So a lot of times you're firing into -1 to hit and a 5+ invuln save, which just makes these things very, very difficult to kill. We have a Flesh Shaper, 1 Lone Spear with KROOT Flock. So he provides the Omni Scrambler aura and is a lone operative, so you can't come within 12 inches of him to shoot him, and you can't shoot him if you're not within 12 inches, so he's just uninteractable. Double unupgraded Lone Spears, plus a Nomadic Hunter Lone Shaper, Trail Shaper. Gives you +3 inches of movement characteristic, so that unit's going to go super fast to go run and disrupt your opponent's ability to score with OC2 OBSEC KROOT Carnivores everywhere. We do have a big unit of 20 because we can use, not Guerrilla Warriors, join the hunt when that unit is destroyed to bring them back at full starting strength into your reserve pool. So we do have 1 additional unit of 20 KROOT Carnivores if we do lose this big one for 2 command points. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 additional units of 10 KROOT Carnivores. In addition to 1 Farstalker unit, 3 KROOT Hound units just for utility, plus the maximum 27 KROOTOX, 18 Rampagers, plus 9 KROOTOX Riders, the 2 Pathfinder teams. These are both rocking recon drones, so we get infiltrate and scout with them. So between them, we have all of the scouting KROOT Carnivores, in addition to the infiltrating KROOT Farstalkers. We're putting 30 models up in the middle of the table and then scouting another 60 into the center. So your ability to just jail your opponent is crazy, which is why the Pathfinder teams I think are really important, because they could just deploy on the line and then move 7 inches forward or 6 inches forward. I think they're scout 6, is that right? In order to just pin your opponent into the yeah. Am I stupid? Oh, abilities. Let's go 7 inches. So they could end, I mean, depending on, I guess, where your opponent is standing, they could end 2 inches off their deployment line if your opponent doesn't have stuff on the line. In fairness, this army doesn't shoot very well. I guess the Pathfinders do shoot okay. So to some extent, we might be able to threaten your opponent's deployment. But one thing that can happen, and I guess you have the KROOT Riders too. They're not like amazing, but there's something there. But one thing that can often happen with these styles of builds is that your opponent just gets to kind of play in the sprinkler on their deployment. The Pathfinders do bring all the ion rifle shooting, so it's 9, 3 damage shots, 2 damage shots, I think. The ions are 2 damage on overcharge, so it's 9 2 damage shots from each of them. 18 2 damage shots hitting on 4s. It's not the craziest shooting in the world, but if your opponent puts like utility units on the line, they could kill them turn 1. So they do have to consider that rather than just like putting their stuff wherever they want, which is a very small differentiation from some of these builds that are running like hundreds and hundreds of KROOT instead of these Pathfinder teams, because it does give you a little bit of threat turn 1. Then we have some up down from the best bid. Lots of board control. We're going to take all the board. We'll take it and we'll eat all the objectives for the KROOT Horde. We just love eating so much. There's a similar build at the same event, if we want to continue to talk about Xenos factions from this event, because Robert Atkinson went Action 1 with Orcs. Now, this is, I think, basically since like Winter Ruin, and we saw a little bit of a popularizing of this detachment. Although it's not like it was gone. That definitely, I think, put a little bit more spring in people's step when it came to play it over Warhorde. Is another green tide list. We already talked about one of these in Best Armies in 40K yesterday, but here's a second incarnation of it. It's just a million orc boys. And it's kind of the same deal, honestly, as KROOT Hunting Pack. You don't get stealth on them, but you do get a 5+ invulnerable save, and they hit hard. Plus, they get that, the once per game army-wide advance and charge from the WOG gives them just a bunch of a big spring of threat range that you can deliver reroll wound orc boys with, which is pretty good. This is only 2 war bosses. One of them has ferocious show off. I don't know what that is, actually. +1 strength to the bearer's melee weapons, +3 strength if you're in a unit of 10 or more. On a war boss, which is strength 9, right? With a power claw? Strength 10. He goes to strength 13. Jesus. Okay. All right. That's pretty good. 8 attacks to strength 13. Huh. Well, very good, I guess. That's solid. We have another war boss, and then a weird boy, so we can uppy downy into tight of muscle to get charges out with one of the 20-mans. Gaskell Thraka, it looks like if he could attach the boys here, but he can also attach it to Break a Boys. I'm actually not sure where he goes. It could be either one of them, to be honest. Although I think his detachment ability or his leadership ability tends to be a little bit more effective on the big 20-mans. Plus, you get more of an opportunity to slingshot him into cool places. And the Break a Boys, being led by the unupgraded war boss, this guy definitely wants to go into a unit of 10 guys, the ferocious show-off guy. But the other one who doesn't have an upgrade may go into the Break-Up Boys to give them +1 to hit. And then you have a good dedicated anti-tank in it, which can be a problem for this detachment, where outside Gaskell and the war bosses, you really have very few high-impact weapons. But having a Break-Up Boy unit that has the attachment of war boss is pretty nice. But then otherwise, we can basically WOG to get Gaskell and the other war boss in, like slingshot them into good spots, obsect the middle of the table with the other fucking 80 boys you have. And then you can Break a Boy something important that you need to kill. We have a bunch of utility as well. Well, there's a Knob Squad. That where might be the second war boss goes. Well, that's fascinating. I guess I was wrong. We're probably not putting them in Break a Boys. We're probably putting them in Knobs. There you go. There you go, chat. I guess it could also be a place for Gaskell. Because the Knobs, I believe, really do want the additional the character attached because they need a war boss in their units to get their -1 to be wounded, which is kind of why you're taking them. I guess to some extent, it is just good to have a unit of guys with power claws, but without the -1 to wound, they are super easy to kill. They're just a 4+ save 2 wounds. They're like not even a Space Marine. So I guess that's maybe where the second war boss goes and not with the Breakas, which is sad. The poor Breakas. Without +1 to hit, they'll miss sometimes. Unacceptable. And then a bunch of utility. Storm Boys, 10 Commandos. Plus units of Gretchen. Look at all those boys. Just a gaggle of boys over there. So many of them. Let's move on. We can talk about a little bit while we're on this the Xenos train here. We can talk a little bit about the tabletop Grots Open. Now, I almost talked about this list. It was won by Fritz Peters, who's running Curse Legion Necrons, but to some extent, chat, it's Necrons. I don't know. Is anybody that interested in it, even if it's Curse Legion? But I want to talk about Genestealer cults because I think we've been seeing a lot of Outlander Claw or Biosanctic Breed Surge, but this is very classic Ascension host. It's sort of the OG of these GSC detachments that we haven't really seen do too much in a while, for a while, I guess. But this is the one that's all about basically like jumping out of deep strike and then shooting you with close range weapons, because you get sustained hits 1, and you get ignore cover when you come out of deep strike until the end of your fight phase. So you can rapid ingress them, and then you gain that ability until the next turn, or you can just drop them out of reserve and then you get it for your shooting phase and your fight phase if you do hit a charge. But we're running one Benefictus. The big thing here is that we have the 2 CP primed and ready, so we can give them critical hits on 5-ups. If we have a Benefictus with Assassination Edicts, so he gives +1 to hit against characters. We have 2 additional Beneficti in addition to Primus with Chink in their armor, which is additional lethal hits. So we have access to 5+ critical. We have access to sustained hits out of the detachment ability, and then we have access to the lethal hits from either the Benefictus or the Primus units. So all of these units can kind of almost very close to Fire Discipline combo out to to get, all that working. Previously, it was that the Primus would give you hit rerolls, but they don't do that anymore. So that's very sad. But it's still a lot of damage when we're talking about these big, huge Neophyte bricks. So we're going to be rocking huge numbers of Neophyte hybrids. Most of them have direct fire shooting. So each of these Neophyte hybrid units of 20 models is taking 2 grenade launchers. So 2 strength 9 D3 damage weapons, 2 mining lasers. So 2 strength 10 D6 damage weapons, if I remember correctly. And 2 seismic cannons. So the 2 damage weapon plus some devastating wounds from the Webbers. And then also lethal hits on all of their auto guns. It's actually not that bad. So we have access to lethal plus sustain on all these heavy weapons, so their output for cost is actually very high. Plus, they're very difficult to kill. You have access to things like Return to the Shadows, where you can jump back into reserve in your opponent's fight phase. They regenerate themselves, so they can respawn models if they have their cult icon back. So you can shoot them. If they don't die, they'll hop back into reserve, regenerate guys, and then jump back in to do it again. They used to be able to do that, I think, in response to you shooting them, but I think that was old rules. I don't believe they do that anymore. I think that is not the case. Yeah, they don't do that anymore. They used to be basically be into return fire, which is crazy. But this detachment's been changed a million times because it turns out it was really broken for a while. But at the very least, it's still tons and tons of OC2 Neophyte hybrids with regeneration, with a bunch of critical effects that also pack 8 heavy weapons in every squad. So it's just tons and tons of damage. We have some damage coming from Achilles Ridge Runners as well. 2 heavy mortars with heavy mortar Ridge Runners. One of them has a spotter. One of them has a survey auger. You don't need the survey auger quite as much in this detachment because you have ignore cover from the detachment ability. However, the survey auger is good if you ever have to stay on the battlefield for a while. Or it's also good if you are buffing your second Ridge Runner unit. So we do have a mining laser Ridge Runner unit in here as well. So they're going to be able to do some pretty hefty damage with the direct fire mining laser shots. Early game from Adelan Jackals, we have a hybrid metamorph unit plus a truck to carry them around in, so we can do some melee damage with them. And then 2 units of Pure Strain Gene Stealers to kill opposing utility units. So between the indirect fire and the metamorphs and the jackals, hopefully we can clear out our opponent's screens and their lighter stuff and their scout squads and things like that. And then once it comes to the middle to late game, you drop these big, huge units in, you pop 2 CP for critical 5-ups, and you shoot a million shots at 5-up lethal hit plus sustain, and you just do some serious damage with the big Neophyte bricks. Your opponent tries to come back, and then they got a skirmish with, I don't know, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 80 Neophyte hybrids, 160 OC of regenerating models in the middle of the table. Seems difficult. Seems tough. I don't know about that. The list name translates to 3 armed deposit pirates. Well, they have 3 armed. And they steal your objectives. Is deposit that has to be a mistranslation. Because it could be like mind pirates. Oh, it's a song. Fond Piraten is a song. Should we listen to it? I don't know if this will play. One sec, chat. I'm fuck with this. That's not all right. I'll buy that. That's what I get for Googling it. So I don't know. Pretty neat. All right, I'm done talking about Xenos. Disgusting, gross aliens. Yuck. Let's talk about some cool Chad Imperium guys. I got a little Custodes action to talk about. One interesting thing about this weekend was that we had a ton of really, really small tournaments. There were lots of like 12, 14, these little events that still ran 5 rounds. I love to see it. That's where some real hardcore 40K happens. And in this case, this was only 8 players from the UK, but we ran all 5 rounds and 1 player won them. Also, kind of a little bit of a stacked crew here, because Brian Sigio, I know, is extremely good. I don't know if I recognize these other players, but I know that he is extremely good. He was playing Demonic Incursion that weekend. But Zen Rashid went undefeated with Adeptus Custodes. And I looked at it, I was like, oh, okay, it must be like Land Raider, Adeptus Custodes, like normal stuff. It wasn't. It was Shield Host with a billion Terminators. Well, not a billion, but it had a big brick of them. Just a huge fucking unit of Terminators. He called it anti-Catan MSU, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, Custodian Guard, if they're fighting over an objective, they're almost automatically going to steal it from a Custodian, or from a Catan Shard, excuse me. He does half their damage, which sucks. However, you have a Vixelis in the unit, you can get some work done. I don't know. It's probably not the end of the world. So we're running 4 units of Custodian Guard, 1 unit of 4, and 3 units of 5. We have 1 Alaris shield captain with From the Hall of Armories, which I think is +1 damage. It is +1 strength and damage. Yep. So he goes to 4 damage on his Castellan Axe. It's only AP1, but if the goal is that we gotta kill Catan Shards, who gives a crap? As long as it is AP1, that's all we need. And then he attaches into an Alaris Custodian squad, and the Alaris Custodians give him wound rerolls against monsters and vehicles. Plus, he has 5+ critical hits with sustains. So this unit by itself can shoot at a Catan Shard, do some pretty serious damage. You're firing at that point the 12 axe shots with wound rerolls, in addition to another 6d6 ballistic grenade launcher shots. So you're shooting 30 times with wound rerolls. You're probably going to chip like 2 or 3 damage in there at least from those. And then on top of that, you're charging in, and that entire unit's getting 5 critical. So you're overperforming ideally on your axe attacks. So the unit itself is swinging 20 axe attacks, and you probably hit like 24 or so if you Marshal Kata for sustained hits. And then the it depends on what you roll with the shield captain. I don't know how many axe attacks he has. Probably 6. Yeah, 6. And he's 6 axe attacks, so he's probably good for 7 hits on average. And those are damage 4. They go to damage 3. So that unit by itself, if we're talking about dealing with the Catan Shard profile specifically, does like a phenomenal amount of damage. Absolutely crazy. But then we're rocking Prosecutors, Witch Seekers, Calidus Assassin. We do have Inquisitor Draxus, the classic. And then we're running the Shield Host staple, a trio of Venatari Custodians to just basically rip apart your backline. Because these guys get those enhanced critical hits, plus a Lance profile. They're good into almost anything, and they're good at trading. The downside is that, like, obviously, individually, none of your units are super hard to kill. They're all just like rocking around with the regular Custodes defensive style line, but you have so many of them, and you have to deal with the Solaris Custodian unit that's going to free strat, rapid ingress in. You then rapid ingress 3 Venatari Custodian units all in the same time, and then you just fully charge your opponent's army, and things go really poorly for them. Sort of classic Custodes a little bit, which I like to see. This feels like a 9th edition Custodes army, I think. which is cool. Terminators with Axis dead get into Catan. And there's a shooting strat to get lethal or sustained. Oh, I didn't even realize that. That is good. Yeah, that's the Archaeotech, yeah. So you can it's, I guess, You probably lethal hit at that point, even though you have wound rerolls. But even then, it's like you're good for, on average, 6 lethals plus probably 4 additional wounds just naturally. So you're probably looking at like 10 saves on a Catan Shard profile at AP1. You're looking, it's like probably 4 damage through their save characteristic, maybe 3 if they spike their, if they get a little lucky, which definitely isn't too bad. That's cool. That's cool, chat. Especially if you go second, because then you rapid ingress bottom of your, no, if you go first, you rapid ingress your opponent's turn for free, come back to your turn, you run up, then you strat for free, then you charge, and you wipe them out for 0 command points. What efficiency, chat? Feels pretty good. All right, to round out the day, I want to talk a little bit about Space Marines. I know everyone's going to fall asleep, but we got some interesting ones to talk about. First one being Salamanders. We're going to talk about some off-meta picks, and we have 2 separate Salamander players doing pretty well this weekend. First one was a player that we've seen on the channel before. We actually streamed him more than once, I think. I believe he was on a recorded game and on a streamed game, if I remember correctly. So this is at the Game Night GT. And we saw Michel Bourgion go X1 with Salamanders. So not quite undefeated, but X and 1. I think it's Mikel is how you pronounce his name. But in any case, we've streamed this player before, and he loves Salamanders. So running Adrax, a Librarian. This is in Firestorm Assault Force. Librarian probably for Infernus, if I had to guess. A Lieutenant with Champion of Humanity, plus a Combi Weapon Lieutenant, plus Vulcan Heston. Champion of Humanity, the big payoff for playing this detachment, obviously. We have 1 standard Intercessor squad, Blade Guard veterans, company heroes for Vulcan to hop into, so he's very difficult to kill. -1 to wound and 1,000,000 wounds into a 2+ armor save is probably a defensive stat line that will not die in a single activation. So as long as you can ensure that Vulcan is not in line of sight of like your opponent's main shooting batteries, you can probably get multiple activations out of Vulcan because of the company heroes. We then, yeah, look at that. The 10-man Infernus squad to get protected by the Librarian, so they don't die super easy. Double Invader ATVs, a Land Raider Redeemer to deliver some of this stuff. 1 repulsor executioners ×2, just for the big stat brick. And not to mention the fact that +1 strength on the defensive array is actually kind of sick. Also, getting assault on all your like long guns is good because your ability to arc lines of sight around terrain features is great. But also, you're just firing between like the Iron Hail Heavy Stubbers and the defensive array. It's like 24 strength 4 gunshots with +1 strength against a toughness 4 target. You know, that's +1 to wound on 1,000,000 attacks, and it also stacks with natural +1 to wound. So if you're talking about dealing with like hordes of orc boys or big Space Marine bricks, these guys get the +1 strength, which if that meaningfully changes their wound roll, they stack that with the Oath of Moment +1, and then they just go sort of crazy, or Crucible Battle even. So I imagine that a lot of people are surprised by the fact that these Repulsor Executioners are actually slap pretty hard into even like T4 3+ save bodies that they normally do a little bit into, but don't necessarily kill. We have a Scout Squad as well for utility. And I guess we are just delivering a Blade Guard veteran squad. That's what we're doing with Adrax and the Lieutenant. The downside being that we have a repulsor. I didn't even fucking grok that, chat. I just went right over that. The standard repulsor, if I remember correctly, has a more impressive defensive array. It has less overall attacks than the Executioner, but I think it is more. It's a higher attack volume with the strength 4 weapons, right? It's 18 shots rather than 12. But you missed the heavy onslaught Gatling cannon, so you're actually like down 2 attacks. But still, getting +1 strength on all those is kind of a big deal. So that's pretty cool. But that gives you a profile that can deliver the Infernus Marines, because the you don't necessarily want the Blade Guard veterans inside the Executioners, for example, because they don't get assault transport. So you want them in the Redeemer because he can extend their threat range. But then you're able to, theoretically, the hope is that you can have like the idea generally with Firestorm Assault Force is that you want a turn where your opponent gives you something to attack. And then if they do, then you can push everything, right? So you have 4 T12 vehicle bodies, and then you theoretically get Adrax's unit engaged with something, and you hop out at the same time, the Infernus Marines, to burn something else down. Even if you're you're like under-committing into stuff that isn't that great, you probably don't have the beef to kill all of these and... what is that? 19 models of the 4+ Invuln save sitting in the middle of the table, plus all the like random utility, Invader ATVs, and random bullshit that's also there. So you have this huge Infernus squad that can run out of the vehicle. They can advance and perform actions, or advance or shoot and perform actions. Plus, they're 2 OC apiece, so they're 20 OC with a 4+ Invuln save that can take the middle of the battlefield. They're very good Overwatch threat because they're just a million flamer attacks. Plus, they can reactively embark into the repulsor if you try to charge them. Or they can do a lot of weird stuff where you shoot the repulsor, they pop out and shoot you, then you charge them and they hop back into the repulsor. There's like a million different ways that they can, I believe that works, right? Yeah, in your opponent's charge phase, you can embark, yeah. So there's like a bunch of ways that you can use them to reposition around these big transports. And it just gives you so much beef in the middle of the table that you can usually like outscore your opponent. That's a pretty cool list. Not the first time we've seen the Librarian Infernus Marine brick, but probably not the last time, I imagine. There's also this bizarre event. And I'd love if someone in Mexico wants to tell me the story behind this event. I have no idea. But it's the Casa de Pistacho? Pistaco? Something like that. And it was a 4-round GT, which is pretty wild. It seemed like a regular event, but they only played 4 rounds. But that did mean that we had a bunch of undefeated. Tau Empire all played Bonka, sort of normal stuff, Necrons being Necrons. But Adeptus Astartes over here, I looked at it and I was originally like, first of all, there's Shrek. Hello. I was originally like, oh my God, it's just going to be Ultramarines. However, if we take the 25 minutes it requires to scroll through all of this bullshit. Fair enough. But real talk, Angel Chong over here, don't fucking do this, dude. What are you doing? This is stupid. Don't do all that. You don't need that. It's unnecessary. It just keeps going. And then here's the list. All right. Well, we found a way. Very dumb. But in any case, also, did he put his fucking detachment? He's a Justiciar with War Tempered Artifice, which I think means it's Firestorm. Oh God, it's in both. It so is. Is that the case? Is there no other? Oh, he has an Immolator. All right, he is an Immolator captain. All right, it is Forge Father Seekers. We figured it out. Because Forge Father Seekers has Immolator, but the other one doesn't. Oh man, chat. We copy pasted at the beginning and didn't put our detachment selection into our list. My guy. This is a man. What's the opposite of being after your own heart? This is a man who is just perfectly oriented against me in every way. He's trying to mess me up, and he's succeeding. He's nailing it. This is a cool list, though. It's triple Land Raider. So we're off to a strong start. We've got one Land Raider Redeemer. That's largely because you cannot fit the Immolator Gravis combo without the Redeemer or Crusader platform because your shit's too big. Your units are 7 models with the Gravis Captain plus the 6 aggressors. So they cannot fit into the standard Land Raiders, which only have a transport capacity of 12. And with all the Gravis guys counting as 2, you need at least 14. So they do fit nice and neatly into the Redeemer, but nowhere else. So he's kind of required. Plus, you get to charge with the aggressors afterwards, which is kind of a big deal. But in any case, we're running Flamestorm Gauntlets. They are firing. I think they have the regular aggressors have +1 attack built into their Flamestorm Gauntlet, right? So they're firing D6 plus 2 shots each. So it's 6d6 plus 12. The downside is the Gravis Captain gets no benefit from Immolator. He only applies it to the rest of the unit. But it's 6d6 plus 12, and they're naturally twin-linked. So for 1 command point, because you have the cost reduction on the Captain, you reduce the cost of Immolation Protocols to give them devastating wounds down to 1. You do not need any input from Vulcan. So this unit is just vibing. It's just operating entirely independently from the rest of the army, which is great. And it's averaging 30 shots. So it's like, it's 30 shots. It doesn't require Vulcan, but you're probably only getting like 10-ish mortal wounds. So it is more self-sufficient than the Vanguard Veteran Immolator combo. However, it doesn't have the same cap because you don't have those extra 4 Flamer guys in there. We then have a Blade Guard Veteran squad. We can carry those around with the regular Land Raiders because they are not in Gravis armor. We're running both a 6-man and a 3-man, so I actually I would be curious to see who goes in with which one, because Adrax can join 1 unit. I kind of imagine it's the bigger unit, but I'm not 100% sure. We sometimes see the little tiny units just as delivery systems for Adrax himself because his profile is really good. He's just hitting on 2s and winning on 3s with full rerolls most of the time, so he's just handing your opponent saves. But when you need to kill super big stuff, he can drop into the big unit, and then you can Crucible a battle all 7 of them, and they can kill like Knights and Titans and Greater Demons and things like that if you need the extra attacks. So it might depend on the matchup, honestly. And then the Judiciaire, who has +3 strength, can hop into the other unit, so you get a nice rapid ingress threat. The other thing is that you have the Burning Vengeance if they're inside the transports. So one thing that often happens is if your opponent sets up to charge a transport, they'll shoot the transport on the way in because they're Land Raiders and they need to soften them up. You Burning Vengeance out of the Land Raider with the infantry squad, and then they charge the Land Raider, and you heroically intervene with the Judiciaire. He fights first and he kills them before they hit the Land Raider. If you have the 2 command points to spend, and it requires a very specific situation because it also requires that you are in a spot where you aren't like you don't have line of sight drawn to you by like anti-infantry shooting at the same time. So it can be tough to set up, but in some cases it is doable, and you're able to get that sort of like dual use out of the Judiciaire. We have an Inferno squad, which I think probably Vulcan hops into, combo weapon lieutenant for utility, and then double invader ATVs, and an Inceptor squad, which is nice deep strike. This is Forge Father Seekers, so we don't have like the funny rapid embark tech that we have on Inceptors. But you can also, sometimes you deep strike them, but you can also use them as a Burning Vengeance target too, because they only take up 6 spaces in a Land Raider. So for whatever reason, Jump Pack Gravis doesn't like stack their transport capacity cap. They just 2. So you can put Inceptors into a Land Raider, and you can also put the smaller Blade Guard Veteran squad in there. And then when they shoot the Land Raider, you can Burning Vengeance them with an entire Inceptor squad, which is pretty spooky. But one thing that often happens is if you play this in Forge Father Seeker, or in Firestorm Assault Force, you can drop them in 6 inches away, and then you can put them in the transport with rapid embarkation, which is like really cute. You can't do that here, but it is cute otherwise. But they're a good chance. A little bit of Salamanders talk for you, which is pretty cool. And I got one more. We got one more to discuss, an undefeated result, which is cool. I looked at it and I was like complaining last week. I was like, every time I look at a faction, I can tell exactly what it's going to be. When I look at the faction keyword, I know what detachment they're playing. I know what units they're playing. It's whatever. And I was like, it's all Rage Cursed Onslaught all the time for Blood Angels right now. Blood Angels never plays anything besides their stupid Death Company detachment. And it's always boring, and it's like nothing but jump pack infantry. Everything's dumb. But if we head on over to GWC Warfare, in fact, both undefeated Blood Angels this weekend, we're not playing Rage Cursed Onslaught, which is sick. A lot of the X and 1s were, but none of the actual undefeated players. So in this case, we had Jay Middlecoat from Mohawk Miniatures, I believe, if I remember correctly. Yeah, from Mohawk Miniatures. So you might recognize him over from his Twitch stream, or importantly, as his I think he's head judge at the WTC now, which is great, good for him. But went undefeated, 5-0 with the old school, the old faithful Liberator Assault Group. So we had the list I talked about in my video this morning was Angelic Inheritors, but we also had OG Liberator also doing pretty well, which is cool. And in this case, we were running double jump pack captains, one with Speed of the Primarch, one with Gift of Foresight, which I think is it's auto 6s, is that right? On saving throws and stuff? Yeah, it is. It is indeed. How do you argue with the head judge, Chant? It is impossible. Fortunately, I think this is UKTC. So, yeah, it's UKTC, not necessarily WTC. So you're not like, oh, WTC head judge, what's your ruling on this? And he's like, in my favor every time. Surprise. But a Gift of Foresight is the auto 6 for hit, wound, or saving throws once per battle round, which is very nice, especially with Thunderhammer. So you can auto devastate if you don't need it elsewhere, which is obviously great. We have Speed of the Primarch, so the once per game fight first on another captain. Commander Dante, Lay Marties, plus the Combi Lieutenant in the Sanguinor. We have a Jump Pack Assault Intercessor squad, a bunch of self-sustaining shooting, so 2 Ballistus Dreadnoughts that get hit rerolls, so we don't need any help from any other people. We do have a Brutalis Dreadnought, which is cool, although LAG gives you the extra attack characteristic, which is obviously very good for like a big twin-linked high-impact attack profile. Plus, he deals mortal wounds, so he's able to punch through otherwise tough defensive profiles. So if you're fighting into a bunch of invulnerable saves, they don't really care about all your high AP stuff. The Brutalis Dreadnought can go in tank shock plus do his impact mortals, and he can hit you for just 1 trillion damage. He averages like 6 to 7 mortal wounds, 6-7 mortal wounds on the charge. I think if you roll pretty well, I guess it's like 2.5 from the impact, and then 2 from his impact. But I think it's a 4+ to do D3 plus 3, or is it a 6 to do D3 plus 3? It's 3. It's flat 3 on a 4+. So the average is probably 3-ish. So he's probably hitting you for. No, it's like 6.5. No, it's like 6.5 mortal wounds. No, I was right the first time. I don't know what I'm talking about, chat. Because it's 3 or so, like 3.3 from the tank shock, and then 3-ish from his ability. Yeah. 6 mortal wounds. Between 6 and 7. 6-7. Let's go. The Death Company, Jump Pack Death Company for Lamartis to hop into. Utility from Infiltrator Squad. And then we have the classic big Sanguinary Guard Squad, usually for Dante to hop into for the extra movement. Plus 2 little units, just to be little guys. Friendly little guys for the Jump Pack Captains to hop into. It's cool to see. I don't know. It's just a regular old Liberator Assault Group with a Brutalis Dreadnought, I guess. You shouldn't say it's that regular. It is kind of Dreadnought themed, which is pretty cool. I don't know if we have any other like explicit synergy with the Brutalis. We can give him advance and charge, which is cool. And then you can use Savage Echoes on him to give him +1 strength or +1 attack. Yeah, I guess it's not that good. That's when your opponent charges you back. Yeah, I think the big thing is that it's like an advance and charge threat that can deal the mortal wounds on the charge, which is big. Plus, he goes to 6 attacks, I think, in this detachment with a pretty high reliability too, which is nice. But anyway, chat, I think that's all our list for this week. I would say it's a pretty good haul. We had a ton of factions represented with undefeated results. I think the total is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, 9. Oh, I miscounted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 different factions were represented with undefeated results, and we had a bunch more like interesting builds in the X and 1 category as well. Plus some of these weird ones I didn't even cover in best armies, like this Casa di Pistacho, which is 4 undefeated players with 4 like that went 4-0. It was kind of an inspiring weekend for 40K, to be honest. Maybe it wasn't as many super major level events. It does feel like the very high competitive like sort of state ends up devolving into like very, very cutting edge things. But I think is the meta healing? Is it a fluke? I don't know. But there's so much good stuff going on, and I was glad to talk about it. I will be live, for those who are interested. I'll be live tomorrow with, I think we're going to go back and revisit our discussion about the, Catan shards and what is currently beating Necrons. Necrons, I think, are just undisputed masters of the game right now, even though their hold is slipping a little bit. When we originally talked about the stuff that was beating Catan shards, that was a long while ago, and we didn't have the same breadth of results that we have right now. So being able to go through all the super majors and stuff that we had last week and talk about the things that are putting these players to X and 1 and X and 2, I think is going to be really valuable. So that's what we're going to do tomorrow. In addition, if you want to talk more about Necrons, I'm going to be live on Twitch. They're about to slip all the way down. Yeah, I mean, you might not be wrong. We'll see. In addition, I will be live. If we want to talk even more about Necrons, I'll be live with a finals game in about 3.5 hours over on Twitch. That starts at 7 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. So we're going to do a little bit of commentary over there. That's for T5S2 Pod 72. So go watch that if you're into some online competitive Warhammer 40K. And I would be remiss if I did not mention the fact that my team's event is closing registration this weekend. We currently have 21 registered teams for a total of, 168 players. I do have as soon as everybody gets registered, of course, I do have an open invitation as well to anyone who wishes to play but does not have an established team. If someone wants to become a captain, I will register them for the event for free. They will not be eligible to receive prizes, or at least door prizes, I think, if you don't, buy a ticket. But if you want to play and you want to be a captain, or there is a captain that wants to represent you, then I will take players who have expressed a wish to play, and I will put them in your team. So if you want to play anyway, feel free. There is a thread that explains all that in the Discord server. There's a Discord link, and you go to the little thread that says players looking for team. And I talk all about that. So if you're interested, go post in there, and that's what's up. So that's cool. I don't know. It's pretty sweet. Also, this is worth National Tabletop League points. So if you play NTL, then you'll be able to submit that for scores for you to improve your team score if you are into that sort of thing, which is neat. All right, chat. Thanks everyone for watching. Keep it classy, folks. I will see you tomorrow with our discussion about Catan shards and all that stuff. And cheers.